is Burns Valley Road.
Test, test.
Push this all the way over.
Test.
And
This
so
will be the indoor.
this would be the rec center, and then we would have the restrooms that would be, even if the rec center was
Right.
closed, we could have it all
Jeramendi got the feds involved now.
Just,
Jeramendi
Brian, can you hear us?
said you can't decide what to do with it.
I can hear you well.
Great, thank you.
Lake County involved.
You can't do anything without getting Lake. He said that,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's one point in his favor. He's big on dams. That's one.
No,
He wants
Stiles
more
Dam.
water.
And isn't he, or didn't he used to be an almond farmer?
Pear.
Here, in Clarksburg?
Down on the Delta. Delta's a big pear. He may have almonds now. It's, or what he may have is vineyard. That whole area is
Bogle is-
going to.
It's Bogle over there, huh, mostly.
There's several wineries over there now. If you go down, drive down to Delta now, you
Yeah.
just be amazed at the amount of vineyard down there. And dairies,
And dairy still,
well, more.
more
They're
dairy.
moving up here from, I guess, from
Tulare?
down south because the water's on the Delta. The water's better.
There is water.
There is water, yeah, exactly.
Well, it's 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock somewhere.
Well, we don't have a choice yet.
I'd like to point out,
Did you
Let's
text
talk about
Joyce?
how much money-
Well, probably just run away. She usually texts if she. That's probably her. Nope. Maybe she forgot about the workshop.
Yeah, let's get started.
Okay. Oh. Okay, so there's just a few things that we thought would be helpful to talk about related to budget before we come back on, what is it, the 15th? July 15th, I
I
think.
think it's 17.
17th. 17th will be the budget hearing. Let me look at the list here. So one is some infrastructure funding and what I'm calling just priority project planning. So, because of the settlement funds that we have and the ability to use state funds for the Sulphur Fire Road project, that frees up a fair amount of money to focus on some of the projects that we would like to get done. So I've created, I'm gonna share my screen. It's probably the best way to do this. Hopefully you guys can see it all okay. I'll zoom in a little bit. So I just kind of want to go down through these and then hopefully get some consensus on the priorities at least, and if we need to shift things around, we can do that. There will be. Let me stop this and see if it'll let me zoom in first. It's not letting me adjust my zoom.
He's got Ryan on his already.
Moving that thing around up there was giving me a cheap drum.
Is that weird? Oh. It's like stuck on 100%.
You can close it.
Sorry about this. Yeah, just was let's try it. Okay, try this again.
Now you can zoom.
Can you see it a little bit, or is that
Mhm.
not good
Yeah,
enough?
I think it's
Good.
good. Yeah, good.
Okay, so just kind of walk through how this is set up. So we just have like the gray lines. These are major kind of projects that we've talked about. These are funding sources across the top, and then kind of total project costs over here. So some of these you kind of have to follow and seeing the different sources and how it all work out. But I'll just start from the top and we'll go down. So Pierce Field development, you can see the things in red are things that have already been spent or are currently budgeted to be spent. So for example, the compensation agreement in buying out the redevelopment agency owners for that property. So the city had full control. That was $203,000. We have an agreement with CEC to do our sort of master plan and infrastructure design. That's $50,000. This would be just under $4 million for actually constructing infrastructure. We're probably going to need to purchase some additional properties there for right of way and other things. So like this is 300,000. And then I think from some of the other properties that we'll be selling, we'll probably end up with at least $1 million from that. And some of that may need to be flipped into purchasing additional property, like say the water park. This is the Burns Valley Sports Complex.
Wait.
Okay, yeah.
So if you buy something for 300 and you sell something for
No,
a
this
million,
is a sale. This is a revenue source
right,
from selling other stuff.
right. Shouldn't that be then 700 instead of 1.3? Total cost?
Well, I'm saying that we probably need around
Okay.
1.3 million to purchase additional property.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I
Does
got
that
it.
make sense?
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
And then this is the proceeds from the apartment. Like for example, if we were to dedicate all that to infrastructure, and then this is the Rescue Act funds that have been allocated to us, and we'll talk a little bit more detail after this on that. But the way I have it broken down right now, it's some of these things are a little bit different than what you guys had earlier. You may notice I've been playing around with it a little bit based on some new information, but 300,000 say for infrastructure related to the sports complex, and then maybe the rest of it for the airport. But it you know, with the housing development at Burns Valley that we'll be talking about tonight, I mean, some of these different things, depending on how much money they can bring to the table for infrastructure, we may not even need to put this in there. We could use it all for the airport. So some of these things are going to shift around. Hey, Joyce, on the sports complex, so you know, we worked a deal with the Wilders on paying the purchase price over 3 years. This here would be a payment from the settlement funds to go ahead and pay those other two payments. One's due in November 2021 this year and one next year. We had talked about purchasing some additional property nearby, maybe for expanded soccer complex, just put a small amount in for that. And then somehow I deleted what this is, but this is just like for construction. So right now we have $1 million in there, and then we're probably going to apply for a grant that we just got information about. And so we're going to be working with it's a similar program to what we applied for Highlands Park, but we're eligible for up to $3 million. And we think this project would probably be a perfect fit for what they're looking for in this. And so we're going to work with our grant writer and get their initial evaluation of that. But if that happens, that would free up quite a bit of this funding to be used, for say infrastructure at the airport. So, Councilmember Overton, just to back up a little bit, we're wanting to go over some of these kind of priority projects that we've talked about and some of the funding sources that we have available right now. And I'd like to just get consensus from the council that, yeah, we want to prioritize these projects with the use of the funds, and then we'll work that into the upcoming budget. So Public Works Yard, we have some funding has been allocated for several years, right? So this is what we have left right now. This was Series A funds. And then we have a little bit of proceeds from the Ogling Canyon sale, you can see there. And then this will probably be used for the phase one, like road, fencing, stuff like that we'd like to get done this year, so we can at least start moving things from the airport over there. We still need money for a shop. This would allocate just over $1.5 million for construction of that. We still don't know for sure what the cost of that's going to be. It may be more than that. But there's some other sources, like we could use the USDA community facilities grant like we did for the animal shelter for a portion of that. They will cover, we're eligible for like 35% of the project cost. So I don't know, we're thinking it may be what, $2.5 million to do the shop like we would like. But and then another thing, I mean, there's other grants out there that may come into play that would help us there. This would allow us just over $4 million to do corridor improvements along Lakeshore Drive. And we don't know for sure how far that would take us, but I'm hopeful that it would take us between here and Highlands Park at least. As we move forward, I'd like to move forward on the design for that this year and get that ready to go. And there may be some additional grants that we could use to supplement this. $225,000 for a splash pad at Austin Park. At some point, we're going to need to address the condition of the skate park, and I've talked to Supervisor Sabatier about it. I'm hopeful that we may be able to convince him to help us with some cannabis tax dollars from the county that they're looking to allocate for construction. But for example, if we were doing all concrete, like redo the whole thing in all concrete like Kelseyville has, it's going to be probably $250,000 or something like that. But I thought maybe we could use some of these funds to at least start on the design process. And
the good thing is about cement is so much easier to take care of. The initial cost is more, but the repairs to it are so much cheaper.
It's pretty degraded right now. You see funding right here for the project that's going on across the street.
What is a bubble curtain? What is that?
So this is something that we put in the Highlands Park project. We brought up the idea there and we put funding in for it. We're I was hoping to have this done a long time ago, but we're going to release a RFP for Austin Park over here. So basically, a bubble curtain is underground, or not underground, but underwater tubing that's connected to an aeration system. And so like the Florida Keys, as an example, they put these at the edge of, like, if you just Google Florida Keys bubble curtain, they put these at the entrance between the Keys and the ocean. And the aeration activity keeps trash and stuff from the ocean from washing into the Keys. Our thought was some type of system like this provide aeration and keep algae mats from brushing up along the lake. We obviously don't know if it would be 100% effective, but we like the possibility of it. So like we added it into Highlands Park so that there would be a curtain kind of from the pier out there back on both sides. And we're hoping that that would help, protect, provide better water quality along the beach.
Because years ago, there was a curtain, kind of a curtain shield out there when we used to have a dock. They used to have a floating dock out there you could swim out to, and from in between the floating edge, and like this curtain underneath it that helped keep stuff from coming up there. Because I don't remember this lake ever looking like that when I was young.
Yeah.
So this is USG, USCG? What is that? United States Coast Guard. So they're using it. It's their design. So they probably have technical data on if it's applicable for algae.
Well, I mean,
I'm
I think,
fine with
the
it.
bubble curtain part of it's one thing. How much the aeration in a sort of
Right.
localized
That's
area
like
in a
30
big
foot.
body of water would help, I don't know. But even if the way the wind activity, when the mats are really bad and it pushes it down here, if it would just keep some of that from, have it bounce off and keep heading south would be nice at least, but
Away from our beach, yeah.
yeah. Okay, so this is the sulfur fire project, Lakeshore San Joaquin rehab. So we spent $461,000 on the design for that project. This was paid for out of the PG&E funds. I've highlighted this because there is the possibility that the CDBG DR funds, we can use those to like reimburse ourselves for that part of the project. We haven't gotten HCD to sign off on it yet, but if that was to happen, that would essentially free up an extra $500,000 of the PG&E to use for something else.
So it's the budget is 10 million for it. Is that what you?
Well, do you have an updated engineer's estimate at this point?
Yeah, we just updated yesterday, actually, it's 8 million right now.
Okay,
We're calling that phase one though.
right.
What do you mean by phase one?
Well, that's the Lakeshore San Joaquin. I mean, the funding source also included Arrowhead and Burns Valley.
Okay.
So you can see, these numbers are pretty thick. Our initial estimate on this project, I think, was less than 2 million, but
Right.
Depends on when they get done, how high the cost is gonna
Yeah.
be, because the prices are shooting up, so.
Yeah. So the
I think
plan,
that's good.
obviously, this one, we have plenty there, hopefully, and then we would start the design on this project like this fall and winter and have this ready to go out to bid for next season. Add $1 million to our reserves.
Good.
And then these are some smaller amounts, but some radio and communications infrastructure for public safety. This amount was already allocated for like radio tower and that stuff. There's some other additional equipment that we're going to be needing, and then was thinking that additional ALPR technology. And I'm not sure, we'd have to ask Chief White on how much of that's already committed at this point and whether I think this would allow us maybe a little bit more coverage than what we currently have. A little bit to do some citywide art projects. The local arts group, we've been talking to them. They really would like to help make Clearlake an arts destination. And some of the other folks in the room could speak to that. I know Councilmember Claffey's been involved in that, Melissa. But anyway, and then some upgrades at City Hall. This one is already budgeted for upgrading the break room. And then we would like to do some upgrades in actually the City Hall administrative portion, new flooring and things like that. So that's kind of the overview. And I guess at this point, try to address any questions and see if the council has different priorities that you want to talk about.
Question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Austin Park, not the across the street there, but Austin Park where the playground is. Are we gonna do something with that? Because that's just not, I get more complaints about how bad that is over there. There's not enough play equipment for the kids' age. The age groups are too, I mean, it's really set up for like 6 to 8 year olds only. It's not anything for little kids, and there's, you know, for the littler kids, and there's nothing for the older kids, absolutely nothing there. So my grandkids won't even go there anymore because there's just nothing for them to do. So are we going to do, I looked at the equipment. I don't know where this equipment came from, but we could have got a really good system for like 30 grand that had pretty much everything for the older kids and then just added some of the smaller stuff. So I think we need to allocate. If we're going to do these parks, we need to do it right. So, I mean, I think we need to have some money over there and fix this park up to where it's a usable park for all ages.
As Mike's suggestion is, Rotary is going to install that within the next 2 months. There's a bunch of equipment coming in.
That's for adults. I'm talking
I
about the
know,
playground.
but I have a look at it to see what part of that maybe older
They want,
kids can work
that's
with.
not, yeah, that's exercise equipment. That's not what the kids want to do.
Okay.
They want
All
to
right.
swing on bars. They want to, you know, have a, you know, a slide they can actually go down. They, you know, the swing set over there is really horrible. I mean, personally, that's a really bad playground. It's a bad playground. It did not, nothing what I thought we were going to have. I mean, I looked up equipment. It wasn't what we put in there. I don't know where it came from, but we could have done a lot better job with the money. I think we need to allocate
I
some
don't know
more.
where you get playground equipment for 30 grand. I mean, there's plenty of room to add some more pieces in there. I don't have an issue with that. I mean, I certainly haven't received the complaints that you have about it. But, I mean, that's like that's 150, 160 grand worth of stuff right there.
As long as we're throwing things out, I mentioned the other day, the tennis backboard for those who want to practice tennis without having partners. I don't know how much it is.
Well, I mean, we're looking at doing some lighting. Dale's been working on this for a little while, figuring out lighting and stuff there. I mean, those are,
I wouldn't,
that's-
I don't think a board would
that's
be
minor.
that big of a thing.
that's minor stuff.
We got to look at liability issues. I mean, when you're talking about slides and things like that,
Yeah, there's no liability issues. Otherwise, playgrounds wouldn't exist. So,
there is liability issues, depending on the size and scope of the slide. That's why a lot of them are the smaller size. They did away with those great big slides that teenagers like.
we've had them for years. They were over here. We had them for years. And so that if there was a liability issue, we would have had to do something a long time ago.
So we've also got the ballpark coming in. I'm sure there may be some space we can carve out for
At the sports complex?
the sports.
Yeah, there will be playground equipment there too.
What about, I didn't see up there, what about the community center improvements?
Well, I mean, that's all separate from this. I don't have that in here. We have what, 500,000 or 600,000 of CDBG funds for that project.
Are we doing any design on that yet?
Well, we have some done. I mean, we're okay to spend money now. So there's some updates that we need to make. We haven't, it's like in separate pots. So we haven't gotten approval to spend the second and third, the larger amounts, but that's what we submitted for the parking lot and that type of stuff.
Yeah. Parking.
Yes, we did. And additional funding inside and then to add the parking lot. And additional lighting and stuff like that. So Yeah, I mean, we can get that project going. I mean, these guys are doing it right now. They've been, obviously, the focus has been the sulfur fire project, and then right now they're finishing up the Measure V projects to get them out, but I think we can shift back over to that here pretty soon.
I think we should send some more money into at things at Austin Park. There's always something going on there.
It is a focal point. One of the things in Austin Park that gets me is there some way we can improve that grass out in front of the bandstand?
Grass has been a problem.
Now, whether in a smaller area, obviously we can't sod the whole park, but there's certain parts of it perhaps we might want to look at. Specifically out in front of the bandstand where it's absolutely dry now. With goose manure.
Do we have the water system fixed now?
Well, it's hooked into Highland, so yeah, it's, I mean, we still don't know what all's wrong, why our pumps aren't working correctly, but there's no more shortage of water. It's just,
So is there a way we can just, and I don't want to block off the park for another whatever because it was way too long, but I think we're kind of done for the right now because it's going to be activities, but I really suggest that in November that we don't spray it, but that we just get out there and hand seed it, but you got to cover it with all the geese and everything that are around.
I think
You got to cover
I
it.
think we seeded it twice and it still hasn't taken the geese around.
It's because
If we
they
do,
don't water
let me
it.
finish, please. If we can just do a smaller spot around the bandstand where there's gonna be a lot of traffic, a lot of people sitting, perhaps we can afford to sod that, and it will take and hold, whereas seeding, it hasn't twice.
Why is the seating not worked as good as it should?
No water.
well, I mean, we had more problems with water again, and we had problems with geese, and,
The geese
I don't
are
know.
gonna be a continuing problem too. I mean, with the sod, it's there, and it's beyond what the geese are gonna pull up. If it's seeded, the geese get the little seedlings, and they're gonna continue to do that. Obviously, we've tried many things, and apparently it's helped a little bit lately. But,
Well, it
I
sounds
would
like,
like to see us at least look at the possibility of doing some spot sodding around.
we have some consensus that we want to put a little bit more into Austin Park. Maybe equipment, sod, other kind of things. So maybe if we can figure out a spot to put that in. What do you think?
Yeah,
David, you haven't said anything.
I concur on the playground equipment. I think the volume of folks that we have there is pretty high. And I don't see that there's enough for, I haven't broken it down by age bracket, but
No.
it does seem a little sparse. The tennis courts, I think, is another good area to target. I've noticed a lot of the kids are now taking down the nets to play futsal in there. It's one of the few places that we have enclosed, which is great. It's a good use of I guess, that space, but maybe as we're looking to upgrade that, removable nets or something along those lines. And the other thing that I didn't see in here is more housing funding. You know, do we have the flexibility if we wanted to incentivize housing more? You know, the homestead program was really focused on homeowners. Do we want to then figure out and carve out some money for home developers to get those folks here? Do we have the flexibility in the general budget if it's not addressed here?
well, I don't know for sure what to say about that. I mean, I think I guess with it's been a struggle for us to get market rate housing. We all know that. I think we're having some conversations now with some folks that may be fruitful. I really think that there's other incentives that the city can provide rather than just throwing cash at them. And there are funds out there available for some infrastructure improvements, I think, that may help that. Most of it is focused on affordable, of course, but I don't know. I guess I would struggle with throwing a few $1 million at getting that stuff built myself. I mean, I think long term, we're better off throwing millions of dollars at putting infrastructure in the airport in particular. Like that's one thing that's going to reap long-term rewards. But that's just.
Yeah, just an observation from the last couple of months, there is more interest in housing, it seems like, to start something here. Russ and I were with some gentlemen a couple of days ago that are interested. So whether all these things fall through, there seem to be more people interested in again. So that's a good thing. So there might be.
I think.
I think what city could help, as we were talking about yesterday, I guess was, with helping through the process, not throwing cash at them, but
Yeah, that's.
helping to move it through the planning process, the permit process, waive or reduce fees if the project's large enough that's going to really make an impact, those kinds of things.
And I think, unfortunately, recently, the folks that we've been relying on or hoping that would develop certain types of housing, it's just, we're beyond their means for one reason or another. And I think we may have, with some of the folks that our city engineer works with, like the 29-acre property that, they canceled their agreement with us, we were able to send that map around and get almost instant interest in picking up that project by folks that we think have, the means to make it happen. So that gives me some hope right now. I mean, obviously, we all know construction costs are even worse now than they were a year ago. And so that's going to make it more complicated. But I think in initial discussions and getting creative with the development itself, I'm optimistic that we can see something happen.
So if you're comfortable with the flexibility you have right now, that's fine. I just want to make sure that you're comfortable with that.
I mean, we could help with, like Alan said, not directly with funds but we can help with get the developer to come in and do it by, like Mr. Kramer said, with fee structure that the city controls.
One of the things that is beyond our means, of course, are the sewer hookup fees, which individually are 13,000.
But, these guys all come and complain about that, but our fees are nothing compared to other areas. I mean, they all, they cry and say how expensive it is and all that, but it's really not.
And it's like half of what some of them I've seen,
Yeah.
I
mean, projects that
easy
our
half.
city engineers worked at in Sonoma County, literally our building permit fees are 10% what they are down there.
Unfortunately, our housing prices right now are also quite a bit lower, which they're
It's
obviously.
relative.
I
but-
think it's gonna, I think we're on the cusp of a change in that too. because we're bargaining.
We're starting to go up in our housing, so prices wise, it's starting to shoot up a lot. So I think you're gonna see a big, as I've said, for all these years I've sat on council, when the city starts looking like they're take pride in theirs, which is fixing up our parks and fixing up and lighting and stuff like that. When you start doing that in any city, you will see people start taking interest, because then they start thinking that the city is moving forward with having care for themselves and their citizens, and that's where the developers want to go. So I think we're going to see, as we finish these projects off, I think you're going to see developers are definitely going to be interested in but what I'd like to see is what's going to really show the interest in the airport property is putting in the roads and stuff. I mean, if we don't do that, I think that's going to sit there for a lot longer. Right. But I think if we get that in, I think we'll be able to get that developed. Yeah. But I think that's what's holding that project up.
We do too. I mean, the level of interest that we have is, I would say, pretty high on a lot of potential tenants there. We're just trying to make sure that we have it really well thought out so that we don't put the road in a way that precludes some type of development. But I think we're getting pretty close. We're we showed our plan to the Caltrans and the technical advisory group that's doing the 53 corridor yesterday. And so, that's something that could have a huge impact. I mean, what they really want to do would, wipe out a lot of that developable land. So we're trying to push back on them to minimize that footprint. And that may be something, actually, since it's, kind of related to this, that they ask us about is, rather than creating a full-blown like freeway concept through there, if the city council had a preference to creating more of a, I don't know how you would describe it, more of a
Expressway?
community thoroughfare where, say,
Yeah,
rather than
thoroughfare.
using big overpasses and interchanges, I mean, what about having more traditional intersection improvements or even roundabouts at 18th and Dam Road? It may make it easier for pedestrian access back and forth across the highway and so forth. So that's something for you guys to think about. And depending on how this moves forward, we may come back and actually ask the council to say, send a letter saying that this would be our preference. It sounded like that may go a long way to the planning efforts there. So,
So an expressway, as Dirk said, rather than a full-blown freeway?
well, I
Expressway.
think technically it already is an expressway,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, a thoroughfare way.
But, just imagine, at particularly 18th and Dam Road, if there was, maybe improved intersections like you have now or roundabouts or something like that, rather than frontage roads on both sides, overpass. I mean, what they have proposed, Dave said, is a $200 million project. I mean, when's that gonna happen?
Yeah, never. It would never happen, but if they're in the process, then we have to look at our property of how much they would take if it went through, right?
Right.
What were you about to say, Dave?
Well, and Alan brought up during the meeting yesterday, and I seemed to be an aha moment, to me anyway, is that you have 4 or 5 intersections going along this 53 corridor, and they're talking about taking out 2 of them. So you're gonna have an expressway now for 3,000 feet, and then you're gonna stop again.
Yeah.
So you're gonna stop at Olympic, you're gonna get to zoom through 18th and
Well, Lakeshore and 40th.
Lakeshore and 40th, but you gotta stop at, you gotta stop at 40th, you gotta stop at
Olympic.
Lower Lake, you gotta,
Yeah, yeah.
it doesn't make any sense. If you look at the time that it might take, if you put a couple of roundabouts, and if you want to put, what I think would be good would be from a technical perspective, is get the pedestrians off the highway and put a pedestrian overpass in. Right, that's easy. That causes a lot of problems just because it's difficult to navigate that area. But if you look at the time to get from Olympic to, say, Lower Lake, and you put roundabouts in, it's probably going to be faster with roundabouts than it would be with 2 overpasses and $250 million, because you still got stops in between. It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make economic sense. Doesn't make
You put
So
engineering
where
sense.
would you put the roundabouts?
At those intersections.
At
Kind
Lakeshore?
of like the Hidden Valley one.
Well, possibly Lakeshore. I mean, they're talking about basically just kind of keeping what's there and improving it slightly. But the areas where they want to create the overpasses is 18th and Dam Road.
Okay, but why would we have to have side streets on those? Is there a reason? Do they have to put side streets, the
Frontage road.
frontage roads
Well,
on there for a
well,
reason? Because, I mean,
you could-
there's no frontage road there now. So if they put in overpasses, why do we have to put in frontage roads?
They could put in just right in and right out in certain places.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for the,
So they
I'm
want an
not for a
overpass
roundabout,
at
so-
18th without off ramps?
A big off ramp at 18th,
Pardon me?
a very big off ramp at 18th.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So
with,
just an overpass, but
Big
at
off
Dam
ramp.
Road though, it would be an overpass with no off ramp.
well, it depends on which way you're going. Like, that's the problem with some of the right of way and the grade changes. Like, you have to, like, let's see. For some things, you would have to go down the frontage road or go down Dam Road extension up to South Center Drive onto the frontage road and then back up to 18th to like get back on the freeway. And it's like,
So
I
the
mean, that's kind of
roundabouts would be
another,
the easiest thing for
Well,
us.
or
basically.
just, I mean, upgrading the
Yeah,
intersections
that's what I'm
with
saying.
traffic signals
Yeah,
a little bit differently, or
Yeah.
roundabouts, but I mean,
yeah.
they want roads right through the middle of the airport. I mean, it would take out McDonald's and Carl's Jr. and Jack in the Box, and it's like, so.
Is there even a possibility that they can do that? Take out businesses that already
Oh, yeah.
exist?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just curious, is
Call
we don't,
eminent
I
domain.
mean, are they anticipating like 1 million people moving here or something? Because I'm sorry, but
No, this
even,
Highway
even,
50
even
Highway
10,000 more here would not.
Highway
create that-
53 is supposed to be the preferred truck route. That's the reason for upgrading
Well, that's
53.
one of them, yeah.
Because of the express, they want people to go on 29, stay on, trucks to stay off of 20.
Well, I mean, just because we have stop signs doesn't mean the trucks can still come down there. They do now. So, I mean,
That's true.
it's like, I just,
That's true, but that's what their basic idea was creating the expressway on Highway
well, then
29.
they definitely don't want to put roundabouts in because trucks hate roundabouts. So,
Well, I mean, they have them everywhere now. So anyway, there's a little bit of a rabbit trail there, but so we have some interest in additional investment in Austin Park. You have other thoughts?
I was curious, of course, a little close to home on the Lakeshore Drive, San Joaquin. What are the roadway widths? I mean, 2 lanes, but are we going to have any walking or bike paths along there?
With the Sulphur Fire Project,
Yes.
no. It is not a widening, it is not a traffic enhancement project. It is basically a rehabilitation of what's there. And we're going to be adding any widening will be based on some AC dikes to help with drainage and some of the upslope grades, cut slopes that come down to mitigate some of that issues and reestablishing some of the swells there. If we were to, number one, you don't have width to do any widening on the vast majority, a large portion of that. There's just no width. I mean, a lot of those areas have like 17 feet of asphalt, and that's all the width that there is, especially on San Joaquin. But if this was to become a widening type traffic enhancement project, you would have to, I would think that the CDBG disaster assistance money would go away.
Would
just fixing one of those, what was already there.
they allow a small percentage of widening or additional stuff, but I mean, we're under that with some of the stuff that we're doing, but yeah, I mean, they specifically told us if we were to, I mean, I think what Dave's saying is it would be cost prohibitive to do it on most of it, but if we were to add that in, we would be on our own.
Yeah, I was looking at a couple of feet, all the rock along the lake shore that is the big rocks on the beach. Those were actually riprap that floated off,
That's being fixed. That's a part of the project.
but that took away from the side of the road. A lot of the road is broken up on the edge
Right,
because that went away.
right.
That's what I was asking about. And we have a lot of pedestrian traffic in the evenings, particularly when people go out for walks. And that road is very narrow and there's close calls. I brought it up before and I'm just hoping nobody gets hit.
The riprap that was destroyed, as a result of the Sulphur Fire Project is being placed back.
Well, they use red rock because it was cheap,
Yeah.
not realizing it was porous and it floated away.
We're using boulders, but just back to the widening thing, even when I told them that we were putting an AC dike in and widening it, I think it's 14 inches in some areas, I had to produce a spreadsheet table and calculate the actual percentage and square feet of widening and provide that to them
Okay.
as part of it. I mean, they were very serious about this.
Which answered part of my question because we have a lot of slope that's slept away
Yeah.
over the years and encroached into the traffic lane, which of course narrows it down. And then the stripers come through years later and restripe it. And now the road's
Widen up,
narrower.
yeah.
So, but that was an actual roadway.
Yeah, we're going to try to mitigate some of that. We're going to try to reestablish some of the historical drainage patterns in there.
Well, I was looking at some of the pins and grade marks that the survey crew did, and that looks about right from my historical memory. But anyway,
You remember that far back?
yeah.
And
Make
the
it just
question that's
yesterday.
probably not related
Yesterday.
to this is, I assume that Measure B and Measure P monies has increased this coming year?
Well,
Since
yeah.
General
Yeah.
tax revenues are up.
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, we're expecting those, pretty much all the sales tax revenues are projected for very slight increases over what we are expecting to receive this year. I mean, I think HDL is kind of expecting that, some of the buying activity as stimulus winds down is probably not going to see that big growth like we actually ended up getting this year. But it's not going to be going backwards. I think there's some slight increases over what we're expecting to get this year, but
And
maybe a couple of percent.
how much are we expecting to get this year on Measure B?
What is it? It's about 2.4, I think, right?
It's kind of like a V. This year's projected high, significantly higher, and then it kind of drops down and then it goes back up.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
They did an adjustment last quarter to the most recent one that we updated and kind of moved around where they thought the growth was.
I think they're probably being conservative, but I mean, some of the stimulus is going to cool from what we've seen over the last year. There's no doubt. I mean, if it stops, right now it looks to make me keep going for a while. So,
Take it what we can.
yeah, so I mean, we'll definitely go over that as part of the budget hearing, but it's
We have any gas tax money coming?
it's relatively flat. There's not. We just got the new projections this week, and I mean, some are up a little bit, some are down a little bit, but relatively speaking, it's about the same as previous years.
The revised projection was 2.5 million for Measure V for current year. And then next year it drops by about like 50 something thousand. And then it goes back up by 3.5% growth. So it's kind of a little down.
That 3.5% growth is that there's kind of.
So basically this year was a 17% growth over 1920. 21-22 is a negative 2.1%. And then 22-23 is a plus 3.5%.
So
Okay.
they use a lot of kind of statewide averages, but they look at each sector, like they'll look at, fuel, and they'll say, we think you're going to have a 2% growth here. And then that 3.5 is kind of the blend of all of those. Overall, I mean, I think it's a good outlook for us.
On that gas tax.
Yeah.
And I think that will go down.
Any other thoughts on this? We have a couple other things we'd like to address, but I don't want to,
You had
I
something
think
to-
this is important.
We'll see what else.
Okay.
I think mine's more applicable elsewhere.
Okay, I'm going to switch to so, there's been some questions about the Rescue Act funds, and we've gotten a preliminary allocation of just over 2.8 million that should be coming to the city. Now, was it just last week, I think, that we've been waiting on the Department of Treasury to release like additional guidance on what it can be spent for and what the numbers are. So they released interim final guidance last week, but it was mostly focused on the entitlement community, so larger cities, over 500,000, that will get their payments directly from the federal government. The rest of us who are smaller, they're sending it to the states and then supposed to come to us. So this is kind of a high level thing, but these are the categories that we have now of eligible uses. So there's sort of COVID response type things. There's the opportunity to provide premium pay to eligible workers. And then there are some provisions for revenue loss. So they have a formula. If we can prove revenue loss, we can use that. Now that would be great because that basically creates entirely discretionary funds. I don't want to say unfortunately, but in this case, I don't think we're going to be able to prove a revenue loss that would allow us to use funds for that. So we'll check the formula when it comes out and see. But and then the other thing is investments in infrastructure. Now, this high level guidance is water, sewer, broadband. It looks like there may be a teeny bit more flexibility. There's some language that refers to public facility improvements if it's related to like making a more safe workplace. Like one thing that we'd wanted to do in City Hall was to maybe, create more office type environment. And, we have the little kind of renegade thing up at the front with the plexiglass and stuff. Like we could create something like you see at the bank or whatever that's a little bit more legit. But some of those types of things may be eligible. But I think the best bang for our buck long term on this is we have all these infrastructure projects to the extent they're eligible. We can't use it for roads as far as we can tell, but like the sports complex and the airport are going to require at least water upgrades, perhaps some sewer upgrades. And so that may be a good use of the funds. But we still don't have the final details for the small cities yet. Now, the large city allocations did change. And we don't really know. Our 2.8 is still an interim number, so we don't know what the final number is going to be yet. But half of it will come this year, and the other half would come next year. So I just wanted to see if you had any questions. I've gotten questions from some of you individually about it, and I wanted to kind of share what we know at this point.
Well, it sounds like if we can get part of the airport property infrastructure in with that, would be an appropriate place to use it, and also for the recreation center, that infrastructure, because you have water, sewer there too.
Yeah, we may be able to have the housing development pay for almost all of those upgrades to the extent that we can have that project do that. We will, but there's probably going to be some other stuff that needs to be done. But the good news is I don't think, my worry was there was going to need to be some upgrades at the plant or new tanks or something that might be really expensive. It doesn't sound like that's going to be the case for either.
This is for the water, I mean,
For the water, yeah.
for whichever company it falls in.
Well, most of it's Highlands. A portion of the airport north of 18th Avenue is actually in Canocti's district, and south is in Highlands.
That
So,
Portion.
makes absolutely no sense.
well, I'm not going to argue with you on that one. But we talked to Dale and I talked to Highlands. They think it's great. They got plenty of pressure. We just got to come underneath the highway and connect. And then I talked to Canocti this morning actually, and he said he doesn't think he's going to have any problems serving the hotel development up there on the north. But he said if it is, he'd be willing to talk about just letting Highlands do the whole thing. So that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, any other thoughts on this?
We do what we can on the airport. I can't cut down.
We don't have a ton of time, but the other thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit in kind of preparation for the budget is talk about the parks. Well, I'll speak for myself. I'm not really satisfied with, how we're able to maintain some of our parks, and so we've increased our staff related to that over the last couple of years. Particularly if we get the Highlands Park grant, and then with the sports complex, there's going to need to be, of course, additional resources. maybe I should just let Dale talk here, but, we are going to be looking at whether there's equipment or technology upgrades that could help us be more efficient with mowing and things like that. But just wanted to let you know that whether there's some coming this year, but definitely next year, there's going to need to be more of an investment because we spend millions of dollars on something and then we have to take care of it. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add.
That's pretty much it. It's not just a matter of acres, but it's what you're doing with the acres and the level of care that you want on those acres. The prime example is like the state capitol or the White House. The grounds there are immaculate, but the hours that are put into that's what it takes. Disneyland, it's beautiful, but the hours, you pay $125 a day to go to Disneyland. And if we can charge $125 a day for people to go in the park, if they're willing to pay that, we can have that kind of grounds over there. Well, obviously, that's not going to happen, but we are going to have to make an investment in technology, better equipment, and probably at least one additional person in the coming, year and a half, 2 years.
So we are hopefully going to include in the budget a facilities maintenance worker. And we think that's one thing that would help us. We've kind of struggled without that for a while. But, our parks guys are the first guys that get pulled off to deal with something over here at the senior center or whatever. And if we have someone dedicated to that, we think that will help us keep things up at the facility as well as allow them to just focus on the park.
What equipment needs do you? Well, we're going to need, if we're going to have ball fields that we want to maintain in good order, we're going to have a better mower than what we currently have. We're talking about a lot more acres of grass. And so, yeah, we're going to have to invest in a better mower, something with multiple decks that float like a Toro with five decks. And that's not cheap. Something like that is going to cost, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000 probably. But the amount of work that you can do with that, your labor cost to mow this park would be a couple of hours versus all day on the mower that we have right now. And the result is, well, you know what the result is with the current mower. It cuts the grass, but it's pretty shaggy. And it could look a lot better. And then, of course, we've already invested in some equipment. And it's very good equipment for what we needed to do. We went out and sprayed weed and feed on the park before the fence came down. It took the operator with the new sprayer and with the toolkit, took him about an hour and a half. Previously, it was an all-day project with the mower pulling a smaller sprayer with a smaller boom. But our new sprayer has an 18-foot wide boom. And so you can make a lot of progress that way. And so that reduces your manpower costs. And it will reduce that manpower cost every time we use the sprayer. So, in a couple of weeks, if we want to go out and hit it again with some more weed and feed, another hour and a half instead of another day. And in those other hours, then that person can go do other things that need to be done.
I have a question. Is there any appetite for a landscaping and lighting citywide district?
I don't know. I mean, if you're asking me personally, I've asked Dale to look into the lighting district. I don't know about the landscape district. I don't think we really talked about that. But.
We haven't
That's
talked about
usually
it.
pulled together, landscape and lighting district.
I mean,
72 Act, right?
Huh?
The 72 Act.
Yeah,
In Rialto, we had, I think we had 5 or 6 landscape maintenance districts in the city, and they were localized. So, people in a certain area took care of the landscaping in a certain area, in that area, and so they paid a fee. It was attached to their utility bill, and they paid a fee to the city to keep up the landscape in the public areas of
because
their part of the community.
pretty common landscape and lighting district, and lighting within the city is also.
Well, we think lighting is the highest priority. Stormwater district may be a priority as well because we have a lot of.
Like
2 minutes to 6.
Yeah.
2 minutes to 6. And there's the dog.
Well, they can start late.
Animal control is there.
Yeah, when you rank level of care,
And it is 6 o'clock.
where would you say we are at right now? where we haven't done any improvement in a while, just maintenance wise.
Well, the level of care, it's a scale of 1 to, if I remember right, it's 1 to 5, 5 being the lowest, and that's basically ground that you're just letting go. That's green space, but you need to go and pick up trash. And level 1 is, the White House kind of care. What we would like to approach is like a 2 or 2.5 is what we're trying to approach. We're not there yet. Redbud, probably more like a 3 or a 3.5 is where it is right now.
Okay. We gotta get it going on the council meeting.
On what? Oh, on the project?
Test. Test.
Audio.
Yes.
Good. I don't know what your experience is, but on that short drive where all that Scotch broom is,
Yes.
there were 2 adults walking a very adult dog, and a car coming, and when the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. Not good. On several sections of that Lakeshore Drive.
Test. Test.
Oh, no, trust me. It's ridiculous.
We're waiting for the chief to. Call the regular meeting for the city council order at 6:05. 14,050. Just a
Is your mic on?
reminder of.
Is your mic on?
Just a reminder on meeting procedures. All items on the agenda will be open for public comment before final action is taken. Citizens wishing to introduce written material into the record at the public meeting on any item are requested to provide a copy of the written material to the Administrative Service Director or City Clerk prior to the meeting date so that the material may be distributed to the City Council prior to the meeting. Speakers must restrict comments to the item as it appear on the agenda and stay within 3 minutes time limit. The mayor has a discretion of limiting the total discussion time for an item. All right, first we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilwoman Overton. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stand and
Father in heaven, we ask that you would have your spirit to join with us tonight to lead and guide this meeting so we may better do thy work. Father, we ask a special blessing on our first responders, on our peace officers, and those who are serving in our communities, not just here in Clear Lake, but throughout the county and throughout the state. This being Peace Officers Week and month, we want to recognize them, recognize their families who sacrifice so much. We're so grateful to have them, and we're so grateful to have the good city Clear Lake staff that we have here. They're doing work and moving the business of the city forward. We ask for all this in your son's heavenly name. Amen.
Mr. Flores, is there any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mr. Mayor.
Can I have?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make
Please
a
proceed.
motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Kramer, and we have second by Vice Mayor Purdock to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Go to presentations. Presentation of May adoptable dogs. And it looks like somebody is getting ready to come in here, or maybe not. Yep. Oh, it knows. You please tell again where people can adopt this dog. All right. Thanks, Charmaine. Home more treat. Yeah, once they know what that you have them, they're going to keep on.
You bear.
All right. Thank you.
Quick update on the statistics for the animal shelter for this year so far. We've had 138 dogs come in the shelter. We've had 143 dogs leave the shelter. Some from last year left this year. Of the dogs that left, 84 or about 55% went to rescues. 42 were returned to the owners. 11 have been adopted. 5 have been euthanized. So our overall,
Wait a minute.
I won't be on there for the rest of the year. Our overall live release rate is down a little bit from last time, but we're still. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Thank you. All right, what a presentation for proclamation declaring May 22nd to May 28, 2021 as Safe Boating Week. Let me read the proclamation. Whereas in 2019, 613 people died in boating-related accident in the United States. 439 of these fatalities were due to drowning, and 362 of these boaters would be alive today had they worn their life jackets. And whereas contributing factors in fatal accidents were operator inattention, inexperience, excessive speed, and machine failure. Use of alcohol was the leading contributor factor with 113 fatalities. And whereas where instruction was known, 70% of the death occurred on boats where the operator did not receive boating safety instructions, and only 20% of death occurred on vessels where the operator had received an approved boating safety education certificate. And whereas in the summer months of June, July, and August are the most active boating months, with 308 of nationwide fatal boating accidents occurring in these months. And whereas as the COVID-19 restrictions are lifted, Flotilla 88 of Lake County will continue its effort to educate the boating public by offering boating classes, free vessel examinations, encourage the public to practice safe boating habits and to wear your life jackets. And now therefore it be proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Clearlake does hereby designate the week of May 22nd through May 28th, 2021 as National Safe Boating Week in Lake County, and urges all users of Clearlake, Lake Pillsbury, Blue Lakes, and Indian Valley Reservoir to safeguard their lives by wearing life jackets when boating and exercising safe boating practices. Signed by me today. Thank you. Okay.
We have someone who wants to speak to this.
great.
Mr. Rand.
Madam Clerk,
I'm Dorothy
Yes,
DeLaPay.
Dorothy Lope, Public Affairs Officer with the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Flotilla 88 of Lake County. Go ahead, Ms. Delope.
That's correct. That's who I am. I just wanted to let the council know that the Coast Guard has listed some restrictions. We will be out on safety patrols on the lake this weekend, and of course, the following weekend. We also will be doing, once again, free vessel exams and also making visitations to the mariners. So that's all I wanted to let you know, that we're back in action again. And thank you very much for reading the proclamation.
thank you. I think a couple of weeks ago, we had one of your fellows with that doing a presentation to our Rotary Club.
Yes.
Again, third item, presentation of a proclamation declaring May 2021 as California Tourism Month. Whereas while the coronavirus pandemic has affected California, Lake County, and Clear Lake's travel and hospitality businesses, and whereas the economic power of the industry is igniting a comeback during the California Tourism Month, and whereas the California travel industry underlying strength and endurance, selflessness, and resilience aligns with the California Tourist Month's theme of power of possibility. And whereas despite losses due to COVID-19, business closures, and community lockdowns, California, Lake County, and Clear Lake are well positioned for recovery, and the long-term outlook for all of California has brightened. And now therefore be it proclaimed that the Clear Lake City Council hereby designate May 2021 as California Tourism Month in the city of Clear Lake. As Californians resume traveling, they are encouraged to jumpstart the state's economy recovery by choosing to keep their trips within California. Signed by me. And it looks like we have our next, no,
I'm going to switch it around. I'm going to have number 5 next, presentation by the Lake County Tourism Improvement District. It kind of follows the proclamation.
Okay. Good, good. See you. So, when do you want to go? Oh. Yeah, come on. I'm Brian Fisher, and I run communications for the team. Liv Butcher. Who also works communications for the team. Casino. Decided to come here today to talk to you about progress that we've made, where we're headed, and share a bunch of numbers. So, to that one. So partners at Visit California, they partner with a company called Dean Runyon and Associates. They're a big research firm up in Washington. They does a lot of research. And these numbers here show that the spending numbers for Lake County in 2020 about 18 billion for total travel release. So that's about 8.7 million in state and local taxes. So, 600 jobs connected with travel and tourism in Lake County. You'll see the next slide. The history of spending is we had a good run from 2013 to 2019, and then we plummeted just like the rest of us. We all know that's not really that surprising, but we think that there's a lot of potential. Show you the next slide. So the thing that is kind of shocking is that when you look at that number, that 118 million, the largest portion of that travel-related spending is actually in restaurants, food. Second is accommodations. So and then it's followed by retail sales of gas, entertainment, fuel. So it's interesting to see how that number is comprised. Next number, this shows. This is for the North Coast marketing group. So Visit California puts Lake into a group with Del Norte, Mendocino, and Humboldt. And this research is for our entire group. It shows that the North Coast average daily rate for a hotel room is about $100, which Lynn and I talked about seems pretty accurate for Lake County as well. And then the revenue per room is lower. It's $63. Both of these numbers have some in the year prior. So 11% for the North Coast average daily rate and 74% for RevPAR. So the numbers are good. You look at occupancy, it really reflects the seasonality of our county. So that all makes great sense. The next number, or the next graph you see, is how we stack up North Coast against the entire state of California. So it's interesting to see that actually the North Coast has a higher revenue and higher occupancy rates than the rest of the state at large. We're known as a tourist destination. That was kind of, I think that's good to see. But we think there's a lot of potential there too. The huge potential on the next slide is that our share of that spending, Lake County, was 15.4%. And if we look at our population, we're 20% of that North Coast group. maybe that's not the best correlation because we know we don't have a ton of hotel rooms. We need more hotel rooms in Lake County. We need them at kind of all the different levels, but we think that there's a lot of upside for tourism in Lake County, and so we're going to dive into the board. So the board is kind of hard to see there. I'm not going to read you all the board members, but we're really proud of our board. Our board has a really good, diverse mix of cities. It's got the two tribal commissions, Robinson and Footpine, and a lot of stakeholders. We've got a really good group of people that have worked really hard for the last 2.5 years. A lot of consistency in the board. We used to meet monthly, and now during the last year, we actually meet twice a month, and then during the last year, we met every month via Zoom. It's a really productive board. We get a lot done, so we're proud of that. So here are some of our 2020 accomplishments. I mean, we, like everybody else, you know, it was a crazy year for tourism. Everything stopped. We didn't know what to do. We were actually supposed to start our advertising in April of last year. We had everything synced up, ready to roll, and we didn't know whether we should just take a month. We didn't know, and so we just waited, and then we're glad we waited because it wasn't going to be a week or a month. And so we really basically turned, and our agency was very smart, and they said, let's work on some of the basic assets that you guys really need here. Stuff that we had identified much earlier that we did not have. And so we spent last year really working hard on getting some of those basic goals put together. The first one was we built a new website, which we quietly released in October. And the website is ADA compliant. It is built on a great platform, WordPress. It's really easy for us to manage. Doesn't have a million plugins like the last one did. And so it's a website that we can grow with. And we've already changed and made lots of different changes with it because it's actually built on a really sound platform. It's super optimized for mobile. We know that 70% of people coming into our website are coming in on the phone. So we're excited about the new website. We also added 2 new team members. Eric Maloney is running social media. The exciting thing about these 2 team members, they're both in county talent, which is huge. And Karen is running social. She does a great job. She's also an excellent photographer. So we were kind of gifted on both fronts. And so she runs Instagram and Facebook. Those are the only 2 social platforms that we're on. And then Trudy Wakefield on the right, you probably would know Trudy through she and her husband starting their website, the Lake County Blue, which is all things good that happen in Lake County. So they're very good. They're dialed in to all the events, all the things that are happening in town, in the county, and they're also good writers. So we've got Trudy and Karen working for us now, and that's been really, really helpful. So social is where we focused a lot in 2020. Social was kind of a safe place. We could grow an audience in social by showing just the beauty of Lake County. And we needed to figure our social out. So we actually grew our social in that last year 120%. We went from some 14,000 followers to 31,377 followers. And they're all across the state. They're in the areas that we know, the pockets that we really want to reach, the Bay Area, the Sacramento Valley. And then some of them are in New York, they're expats, they're people who live here, just love it. But we really built a great social, and Karen really built a great social voice. And that's really important. You have to respond on social media. You can't just post something and leave it. You have to be in there. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And I told this story is that when we started taking over social, there were a lot of crazy people that were trolling us on our social media handle. And they were there when we took it over. And they weren't very nice, but we just kind of weathered it out. We just wrote it out, and they're gone. They're pretty much gone. So we have a lot of great comments. People give a lot of great feedback, and so we grew social, and we're happy about where we are. We're going to continue to grow. The other things that was good about it is we really expanded beyond kind of in county. Prior to taking over, there was just, we were talking to ourselves a lot, which is okay, but now we're in Sacramento, San Francisco, San Jose, Stockton. You can see the city, Modesto, Oakland, and so we have a lot of people who are following us and, you know, reaching out, and those are the markets that we want to reach into because those are the people who visit you. So media exposure, Trudy really took over. I mean, she dug in really fast. We have already been featured in Visit California, arguably the most powerful person, the most powerful entity in the state of California in tourism is Visit California. They have 30 million people who visit their website every month. So we've been featured several times. Trudy is every month. They ask her for different features about the county, and we try to come up with the angle that we can. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but she's done a really good job. We've been picked up by Active NorCal. We're in conversations with all the traditional media, and just this week, we hosted for 3 days a blogger and a videographer who has about 185,000 followers on YouTube, and it's the name of his site is called California Through My Lens, and he toured. He went everywhere, and he had a great time. Really, really good guy, and it's a lot of work when you have people in and you're kind of responsible for them. So Trudy did a really good job there, and we'll look to forward to the fruits of his visit. Like I said, it's a huge following down in the southern part of the state in particular, so that should help us out. The other thing is we resurrected our monthly newsletter. We have a database of about 7,115 folks who have opted in to receive a newsletter from Lake County's tourism. And we've grown that about 500 and some odd in the last year. And we are now actively, monthly, coming out with a newsletter. We follow it. We see the open rates are good. People are engaged with it. And it's also really good evergreen material for us to put on our website, which helps with search. And it's helping us kind of refine our message as well. Last month we did a wine tasting. So 5 great places to go and taste wine in Lake County. And it's a good way for us to kind of focus on what are our top pillars to bring people into the county. The other thing that we did, which is super unsexy, is we built an asset bank. The asset bank is nothing more than a giant repository or safe deposit on a Dropbox that holds all of our video and all of our photo assets so that all of the players can get access to it. So Karen has access, Trudy has access, the agency, I do, and it's something that'll be there forever. And it's high quality, high resolution stuff, and we're continuing to shoot, and we're shooting all around the county, and we're just really kind of getting started. But we did a lot of that in 2020. Print, we ventured into print. Print's such a hard medium to measure, but we went for some high profile print. California Magazine does a travel guide every year. So we had a half-page 4-color in their travel guide, and we also ran in Via Magazine, which is the AAA magazine. Really good targets. Those tend to be older targets, but that's part of our target as well. So we had the half-page ad there, and we'll continue to look at it. The next is, where did our money come from in 2020? A little over $280,000. You'll see that the majority of it came through TID assessment from the county, the largest portion of it. And then the second is actually the county contribution. So that came from TOT from the county. And then third is Clearlake's TOT. And then Lakeport. And then we have both Robinson and Middletown. Yeah. So, it's not a lot. We were really conservative in 2020. We didn't spend a lot because we knew that we were going to need it for this year. So some of the numbers there. So here's what we're looking ahead to do in 2021. We're going to continue to partner with BELO. BELO brings us like top-notch talent. You just can't find talent. They're great with analytics. They're great with web dev. They're great with everything that they do, and they're really accessible. So they're kind of on call for us at all. but there's an expense with that for sure. But they do a great job, and we really like Belo, and we're going to continue to work with them. The third woman over on the top row is Amber. I was on a call with her for about an hour and a half today, and we talk pretty much all the time. They're very good. And they're in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They work with a lot of other small cities and municipalities and counties just like ours. So they bring kind of this industry knowledge that you just don't get somewhere else. So we're going to continue to work with Belo. Our campaign goals, we don't have a lot of sophisticated revenue goals around, other than really TID collections. The county, a lot of the hoteliers, we don't report into some of these major reporting systems that say what their occupancy is and what their RevPAR is, what their average nightly rate is. So we don't get a lot of that, but we're following all of our traffic to our website, which is just this week we had about 19,000 visitors to the website, new users. And we're just going to continue to follow our newsletter signups. And as we can grow these metrics, we will. But we kind of have to take the metrics that we've got right now and use those to give us an indication. So the media channels that we've employed this year that we're going to employ in the second half is the programmatic, paid research, paid search, paid social, print, and outdoor. And I'll give you a little example of each one of these, just so you kind of know what they are. So programmatic this is a native example. This ad here is like a little feature that says the 5 hikes that you must take in Lake County. Go to where all the locals go. And then it's a link to a blog on our website. So that is what programmatic data looks like. Next slide. You may notice somebody in this one. This is programmatic display. California's cleanest skies, America's oldest lake, one of the fastest growing region, and the friendliest folks on earth. See what makes us really different as a Lake County, and see what makes us different. And so then they click through to the website, and they're just essentially dropping on the homepage there. And we're just enticing people to be curious about what's going on in Lake County. The next slide, paid search. Paid search is like the super unsexy thing, but it's so productive. Paid search delivers more people to our website than anything we do. And we're going to actually increase that. We're going to have Bing, because Bing organic search has been really good for us. And we're going to start buying Bing in the second half, some paid search there. We'll continue with Google. There's a million numbers around it. It's just their algorithm is constantly updating and making your search even more powerful and better. So it's a good space for us. So we'll continue to paid search. On the next slide, paid social is excellent. We love our paid social. The first half of the year or last year, we just wanted people to like our page. We weren't really trying to drive them to our website because we didn't have it done. So this year we spent the first half kind of trying to drive more traffic to the website. And I think as we look at it now, we're going to try to drive more likes. We're going to try to grow that audience bigger. 31,000 eyeballs isn't all the time, but it's a great audience. And so you don't want to just let it kind of stagnate. And just as a point of reference, like Visit Sonoma has about 48,000. So Napa Valley, 156,000. So, but we weren't even on the Richter scale, and now we're totally on the Richter scale. So, and so we're going to do high-profile print. So here's the July cover of California road trips. Everybody knows road trips are hot. Everybody's getting in their car and driving places in California. Kevin Costner, there he is, and we're going to have a full page 4-color ad on page 3 of that issue in July. And it's going to go into, it's going to be kind of bound in with 850,000 copies of Better Homes and Garden, Travel Magazine, or Travel and Leisure, and what's the third? Parents. And then it'll be in California Visitors Center. So if we're going to be in print, we want to be high profile. We want to look like we're playing. So that's what we're gonna do there. And then last, this media is high profile billboards. So billboards is, anybody knows, is really top of the funnel stuff. It's where you really surprise somebody with awareness. It's where you really reach people in a place they don't expect to see. So we've got 2 billboards that we're in contract with. We'll start on July 5th. It'll run through October 16th. And 2 of them are in San Francisco and 2 in Sacramento. And that board there at Masonic and Erie in Sacramento over Trader Joe's, it's 500,000 impressions a week. 500,000 people work on that. We'll geofence so we can grab those with their smartphones on, and we'll grab their information, and we can then deliver digital advertising to them. So we're gonna do some high profile outdoor, and then in Sacramento, we're kind of in Midtown, which is where you've got all your farmers markets, all your stuff. You look down at the arena, but the arena was just way too expensive. So with that, we want to thank the Clearlake City Council. Your contributions have been huge. They kept us going. We know that it's going to take a lot more. We're up against a lot of competition out there. We feel like we've got the enterprise built. We've got the structure, and we're seeing successes. We just need continued support, but we will deliver. Come back and show you where we're at. So with that, we'd just like to open up for some questions. And
Anybody? Vice Mayor Hood.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate you both. You both have beautiful spots in the county, and we're happy to have you. I had a couple of questions about, well, first, with some of our resorts over the downtimes, they turned into month-to-month rentals and they're family owned, that kind of thing. Is there any outreach to those property owners to maybe encourage them to come back into the vacationer markets or anything like that?
yeah, we have a very quiet stakeholder base. We've tried to engage at so many different levels. We have also, outside of that newsletter, we have a stakeholder newsletter. We struggle with who they are, finding the real emails, a lot of LLCs and stuff like that. So one thing, I mean, anecdotally, I can tell you, I visited a whole bunch of them a couple weeks ago. I drove personally the Destination Magazine, about 47 minutes. I drove the Destination Magazine, tons of locations. And I did, just right down the street here. I went into one, I thought it was like a hotel. And this woman was like, people live here, man. This isn't a hotel. I said, oh, you look like a hotel. So she was real nice, but she didn't want my egg. So I don't know. I mean, we feel like maybe we'll reach some tipping point, to be honest with you, where the business will be good enough to where they'll see that it's a much better way. I mean, I know when I do long term on mine, it kind of pays some of these months and it makes it a little easier. But
I'm just wondering if you had any materials you could share with some of these, showing a business plan, ROI on their properties, potential.
A little bit, so we could really show the results. I mean, this, because we lost last year.
Right.
We are just now really getting out there. And
started February 15th.
if we could
Mhm.
have some really good ammunition to go to them and maybe we can say, look.
I think you've got pretty good
Yeah.
Well, it's
That's a good presentation. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
there.
if we will. But it's a good point. I mean, there's another huge issue loss that I bring up because I've got you. And it's compliance.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big issue with the fastest growing area in any county, and in particular Lake County, is in short-term rentals. It's people who are buying these homes from the Bay Area, coming up here. It's the Davids of the world. It's folks who are coming up here and they're buying homes and they're putting them on the rental market. And David,
Mhm.
yes, it's TOTTA. Most of them don't. There's no compliance.
Mhm.
But the issue is that both of those platforms, Airbnb and VRBO, have voluntary collection agreements with most counties. We just don't have one.
Okay.
So we need that.
So that's a county?
At the county level, we'll need it at the city level as well.
Yeah, the properties that I'm thinking of are all the way around the lake. It isn't just within our city limits. And those are the more run down properties. And I'm also talking about RV parks things like that. Again, they're basically existing. And if we could show them a way to thrive, I think you guys could do that. So
You're saying you'd actually be better off renting their rooms short-term.
absolutely,
Because you're not getting much rent on the short.
absolutely.
Argument shouldn't be that difficult.
If you could show them the numbers that you're seeing, I think it's a very, very good place to argue from. You're on a good foundation.
Any more questions?
Yeah,
Go
I have a
ahead,
question.
Councilman Kramer.
It was a great presentation. I always enjoy listening to you and you're amazing how upbeat you are every time you speak. What are you on? No. One of the things you said earlier on, we need more hotel rooms, we need more dining. I absolutely agree. Do you have any idea how many more hotel rooms the county could use now, 5 years from now? Do you have any feel for that?
We pretty much got the campground space and more higher end stuff.
Mhm.
That's where, you really run pretty short.
Yeah, no.
You have a lot of nice family oriented places, the Narrows over there, it's great, bring the kids and run, but it's, we need those options. Well, we got this gal, wants us to advertise. And she's really nice, but it's like, the normal people don't go there. It's like, it just really, it's like, so they've got too much money.
Are we talking 200 or 300 or 2,000 or 3,000 rooms?
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
let's get that first. yeah.
So,
Yeah, what comes first?
But we need more options and more things for people to stay in the location.
I do have a request. If you could speak in the microphone, people out in TV land can't hear you.
And restaurants, same question.
Why would anyone open a restaurant?
Oh, come on now. I
know,
always
I'm
enjoy
telling you.
going to yours.
Yeah, it's just-
All of it, we kind of at the TAD, and where I go in my head is, I don't want to worry about what we don't have. There's so much you can wring your hands over. And our agency was the very first people to say, you can't fix a lot of the problems that you're going to face. They work with a lot of counties just like us, Ulster in New York, or multiple counties in Iowa. They work with a lot of people. They just said, just remember that what you're trying to do is you're trying to draw people, your best tourists, let's figure out who they are, and you're trying to get them to come up and have a pleasant experience. And so we're just trying to work really just with that in mind. And we think that if we can stop some of control the narrative that people outside of the county see, which we all know what it's been, and we don't want that. We want to take control of it. We want them to see more positive things about the beautiful stuff that we have, about the great people, about the killer campgrounds, about all we go to see. All of that stuff is what we want to figure out. Because that's what keeps us all here. So that's kind of where we have to go here. It's a lot we need.
That great big puddle of water out there has got a
David, you have
huge
anything?
demand.
Yeah, I just had a question. The board right now, it seems to be comprised of a lot of hotel owners. But, seeing the spend in county, food service restaurants seem to outpace that. Do you have any plans of bringing in some restaurant owners and potentially some short-term rental owners onto the board to get that varying perspective?
We would love to. Our charter, our
Purpose we're set up specifically for
in
is
our
to create overnight stays, so.
what's the name of the plan? What's that? bylaw. Our bylaws stipulate, sorry, that we have to have, the majority of the board has to be stakeholders. So that's why I think we have 5 stakeholders. And then we added both of the so we would love, I mean, again, David, we would really like to see more folks interested in what we're doing that are stakeholders. And we struggle with trying to make that happen. We struggle to reach them. And we would love to have, you know, your general manager, the guy who owns the Best Western here in Clearlake, say, I'd love to be on your board. We would love for his brains, probably a really smart guy. And we could use that. And so, yeah, we would love to have more and different diversity because some of us are going to time out. You know, we've been 2.5 years. We have another 2.5 years before we re-sign the TID. But we're already thinking about that now. It's like we've got to start thinking about how we're going to do this.
Also, we're going to have a job description for an executive director. Right now, it's all volunteers. And we need to get some infrastructure that can spend, you know, 100% of their time on this.
Well, it's pretty amazing how much you already get done for the amount of money you have. So,
Well, and you know, if it wasn't for Brian, to be honest with you, there would probably be less than half of the progress because he has dedicated so much of his personal time to keep things going. It's just really been phenomenal.
And he has the knowledge of the advertising industry to bring to this organization. Nothing that us have.
Like I said, it's straightforward. You know, I think I'm really happy where we are. We still don't have. So just.
You don't have to complain about the county to us.
I don't want to be that, but I mean, how do you plan a media budget? How do you know where things are coming from? I mean, we're trying to do stuff as scrapped and resourceful as we can, but so that's been a product that's been.
I'm twisted. All right, any more questions for Brian? Not? Great presentation. Thank you very much for all you do for the county and the city. We really appreciate it. All right, now we go back to item number 4. Presentation by PG&E of the 2021 Outlook on Public Safety Power Shutoffs and Wildfire Safety Efforts. Do we have a representative from PG&E?
Yes, so we have Melinda Rivera and John Stallman from PG&E here. And they're going to, I think Melinda is going to share her screen and give you a presentation.
All right, good evening. Thank you. And City Manager, I'm just doing a quick mic check. Can you hear me and can you see my screen?
You're a little quiet, Melinda. I don't know if there's anything you can turn up on your end.
All right, is that better? Can you hear me now?
Little louder, please.
Okay, I'm going to.
Oh, there you go.
I hope I don't look like the Wizard of Oz head, but I will get as close as I can to the mic. Good evening. Thank you very much, Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, for allowing myself and my colleague, John Stallman, to present with you this evening. My name is Melinda Rivera. I work in local public affairs for PG&E for Lake County and for Sonoma County. I'm joined this evening by my colleague, John Stallman. He works in microgrid implementation. I also have another colleague, Donovan Lee, who is our public safety specialist, and he'll be available during the question and answer session as well. Thank you for allowing us to take some time to discuss the Community Wildfire Safety Program. So I will hopefully scroll through these slides here. So this next slide, just a reminder for those of us who are attending either at City Hall or remotely, please make sure you're aware of your surroundings, have identified an emergency exit, and are following any necessary COVID-19 precautions. So wildfire risks across PG&E's service area. California continues to experience an increase in wildfire risk and a longer wildfire season. On this slide, we are sharing one of the tools that PG&E uses to assess wildfire risk. This is the Fire Threat Map of California. This map was developed by the California Public Utilities Commission in conjunction with CAL FIRE and with the U.S. Forest Service. So this map helps to plan for potential wildfire and helps to focus prevention efforts. As you can see on the map, nearly 1/3 of the electric lines that provide customers with power are now in high fire threat areas. You can find this map by visiting cpuc.ca.gov/fire threat maps. Lake County overview. So on this slide, you can see the local efforts here in Lake County for system hardening. This work includes replacing bare power lines with larger covered lines to reduce the risk of outages caused by vegetation or by birds, and it eliminates the risk of bare power lines coming into contact with one another. Sectionalizing devices limit the number of customers impacted during a PSPS event. These devices separate the electric grid into smaller parts and allows PG&E to de-energize targeted areas during severe weather. We're also addressing vegetation through the Enhanced Vegetation Management Program and opening community resource centers where people can access resources during PSPS events. And we are also working to improve weather forecasting capabilities and monitoring and response with weather stations and high definition cameras. So on this table, you can see kind of the progress year to date, the plan year to date. There is a term indicated on the far right that indicates ongoing for community resource centers, weather stations, and cameras. So Lake County OES, Lake County Office of Emergency Services, provides ongoing feedback to the public safety specialist at PG&E about any areas of the county that County OES feels could benefit from any of these resources that are listed here, a community resource center or a weather station or a high definition camera. So they do provide that feedback on an ongoing basis to PG&E. Okay. Tree overstrike exposure and PSPS decision-making. So you may have heard there are additional criteria that have been developed for the Public Safety Power Shutoff program this year. To help prevent major wildfires, the federal court issued an order recommending that PG&E adopt this additional criteria in which the power might be turned off during severe weather in areas where there are large amounts of trees that are tall enough to strike power lines. So PG&E plans to move forward with this recommendation for the safety of the customers. So you'll see here that customers who live in areas of the highest wildfire risk may experience more frequent PSPS events. And as we get more community-specific information related to this additional criteria, we will be sharing that with our cities, with all of our government stakeholders, and with our communities and our customers. And I will now turn this next slide, this part of the presentation, over to my colleague, John Stallman.
Good evening, everyone. Melinda, can you confirm that you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. I'm John Stallman. I'm with a group called Integrated Grid Planning and Innovation, and with the microgrid implementation team. And I think you may recall in previous presentations that we have been developing microgrids that are aimed at downtown areas that have infrastructure that is positioned in a way that is safe to energize. A lot of the times that infrastructure, those wires and poles or underground infrastructure are not located in the high fire threat area, but because of the lines that feed into those areas, they may be impacted from extreme weather. And so we have identified a number of different locations, in particular in Lake County, that can benefit from being able to isolate a small area of critical infrastructure and shared community resources that the broader community can access. And we isolate that area off, and then we bring in a source of energy into that area. And in this case, they're generators that we connect into the system. And then we operate a microgrid during the duration of a PSPS event and the extreme weather. Once we get the all clear from the extreme weather and the winds have decreased, then we can go ahead and reconnect you back to the broader grid and keep you energized by the normal grid source. So in Clearlake, in the city of Clearlake, we found two portions of the city that could benefit from microgrids. And based off from our experiences in 2019 and then the follow-on year of 2020 and the data that was developed from that, we've elected to continue working on the two microgrids. Now, the weather data, as Melinda mentioned, is changing. Our current data set shows you're less likely to be impacted in your area. However, there are changes coming to that data, given the previous slide with overstrike information. So we're proceeding to set up the two microgrids. One of those microgrids is positioned at what we call Clearlake North, and that's essentially all of the waterfront over near the police station, up over to the PG&E Service Center area, and that encompasses the bulk of the downtown, including some of the clinics and hotels that are on, I believe it's Lakeshore Drive. So Clearlake North, the progress on that location, that's a very large microgrid. It requires a lot of generation that's going to be positioned at the PG&E Service Center. And at this point, we've navigated through 80% of the design and engineering, and we're moving into the permit application, and that's indicated in red on your screen. Additionally, the Clearlake South area encompasses the hospital, the county court, I believe it's a Walmart, and the community college. And that's a smaller microgrid, but we're really aiming to provide those shared community services inclusive of the hospital. And that project, we've partnered with the community college to have a location there to be able to set up our permanent infrastructure that allows us to bring in a generator and quickly plug into that. We call that a pre-installed interconnection hub. And that equipment is going to exist on the college property. We've just confirmed with the college, and breaking news is that they've confirmed that through their board, and now we can go ahead and move forward with the remainder of obtaining a permit. So we're in process of that engineering, and we're moving into the permit stage and entering into construction during this summer. With Clearlake South, we're doing a couple of additional projects, and I should note that Clearlake South is actually set up with two generation locations. One we established last year, and we made it so it would be possible to keep that microgrid in the south area energized with generation. And that's what we call a temporary site while we were putting in the permanent infrastructure. So we're still going to be able to use that temporary site to energize that Clearlake South area while construction is underway. Additional projects that we're doing is we're putting in some underground to the hospital to give the hospital a little bit more resilience, and so that we can keep it energized in most of the conditions that south area of Clearlake would experience. So we're really trying to improve on the hospital's resilience. We've also partnered with the hospital to prepare an energization plan. We put generation at the hospital last year to keep it fully functional during the COVID season. We've partnered with the hospital again this year, and we have an energization plan. Should the microgrid not operate, we have another plan to keep the hospital energized. So we have a few redundant plans in that south area to keep your facilities energized. So the key takeaway here is work is in progress. We don't have any major roadblocks at the moment. We're stepping through our process and entering into permitting and construction. And we're aiming to have those ready in the early portion of fall, late summer for the main season of PSPS. And last thing I'll mention is these two microgrids, north and south, cover the vast majority of the commercial areas and some of the residential of the city of Clearlake. It does not cover all of the city of Clearlake. For those areas that exist in the tier 2 high fire threat area that Melinda described, those areas, if the weather is there, will still need to be de-energized. But again, I mentioned the data is revealing we've done a lot of system work, and you're less likely to experience an outage in Clearlake. These microgrids are a bit of an insurance policy, and then we need to get the details of the overstrike data from the previous slide, and then we'll be able to assess what's most likely going to occur in the future for the frequency in your area. So I've covered that. We're happy to take some questions. I think at the end of the presentation, we'll take additional questions, and I'll hang on until Melinda is finished, and happy to field any questions at that time. Back to you, Melinda.
Great. Thank you, John. So, sorry, I'm having some trouble driving. Let me just walk that back. Customer preparedness and resources. So this year, PG&E is adding some additional resources. Let me make sure I've turned this up. Adding some additional resources to assist with our customers and communities before, during, and after public safety power shutoff events by partnering with community-based organizations, expanding our language offerings to 16 languages, increasing meal replacement options by collaborating with local food banks and local Meals on Wheels programs. We are also collaborating with the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers Disability Disaster Access and Resources Program, so that we can enable qualifying customers who use electrical medical devices to access backup portable batteries through a grant, a lease to own, or a financial loan application. We also have a portable battery program, which provides batteries to low-income medical baseline customers who have critical medical needs. And we have a new program this year that I'll talk about on the next slide that provides generator rebates for customers who depend on well water pumps and who live in high fire threat areas. So over there on the right side of the slide, you can see the organizations with whom we are currently partnering in Lake County. And if council members have any additional suggestions for PG&E about other community-based organizations with whom we can partner in Lake County, I'm very happy to take those suggestions. So the next slide is the generator rebate program. This program is a pilot program that began this year, and this provides customers who live in high fire threat districts and depend on a well water pump with a single rebate for purchasing a qualified portable power generator. So this program offers a $300 rebate for all eligible customers and a $500 rebate for those customers who are also participants in the CARE or FARA program. To become eligible for this rebate program, the customer must have an active electric PG&E account, must reside in a Tier 2 or Tier 3 high fire threat area as determined by the California Public Utilities Commission fire threat map, and must rely on well water pumping for the household needs. Financial assistance and support programs. PG&E is continuing to offer emergency protections for customers who have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. This includes suspending service disconnections for non-payment, a pause on post-enrollment verification and re-enrollment requirements for the CARE and FARA programs, waiving security deposits for small commercial customers, and allowing medical baseline customers to self-certify their eligibility. Please note that these protections are set to expire on June 30th. And so for more information, we encourage everyone who is interested in any of these programs to please visit pge.com/COVID-19. On this slide, there are some additional resources for community members who may be interested in learning more. We have additional websites, including address alerts. So community members who may not be the PG&E account holder can go to address alerts and sign up to receive PSPS alerts, for example, for their child's daycare or their child's school or the place where they work, the home of a family member or a loved one. You can sign up to receive alerts by going to that website. We also have our weather and PSPS forecasting webpage, a Safety Action Center website, a website that has interactive activities for kids for emergency preparedness, information in other languages, and then the backup power webpage. So all of these can be found by visiting pge.com/wildfire safety. So thank you for allowing us to take the time to present this information to you this evening. We'll be here to answer questions from council and from the community. And if anyone is watching this in the future, or if there is a question, if a community member has a question that did not get asked or did not get answered tonight, please feel free to give us a call at 1-866-743-6589, or you can email us at wildfiresafety@pge.com. So
Thank you very much for your presentation. Do we have any questions from the council? Out of this? Hold on. Mr. Alan Floro, you have something?
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Stallman. So, and this is related to the microgrids. So last year, we were under the understanding that those two microgrids were temporarily set up and could be active. And it sounds like now you're working on more permanent infrastructure related to those. So if there was a PSPS event where you could activate one or both of those microgrids prior to the permanent completion of the infrastructure that you've been discussing, would you still be able to activate them on a temporary basis like was intended last year?
Yeah, good question, and thanks for that. So this gets to be a tricky interface, right? Because we have a generation location where the generators go. We use that spot for the temporary location. And when we move into installing the permanent equipment, there will be a construction period when Clearlake North location will not be usable. So if we have an event in the springtime, which is we're entering that window between now and July, let's say 15th. There is a small window in there when the winds for the springtime and the dry fuels match up. As we enter into that time period, if there is construction going on at that location, we would not be able to energize the site. The construction currently is timed to occur after and starting in late July. So if there's an event, we're prepared to use the location. I want to caveat with everyone that if there is construction underway, that will be occupying the location where we would put the generators, and therefore we would not be able to use the location if there's an event. Now, if you recall the weather, we have this window in the transition winds between spring and summer, and there's a small PSPS window there. Then that subsides and we enter into the summer months where there is no risk indicated from our historical weather data. And then we enter into the fall months, and around September is when we start getting events that start to occur. And September, October, November, December is the real window when we get the extreme winds that come out of the east, out of the dry desert. And so our construction period is timed for that summertime to be ready for the fall time. Now that's in the Clearlake North microgrid. The Clearlake South microgrid is a different situation. In the Clearlake South microgrid, we have a temporary location that we negotiated with the college to use, and we have a different location that's the permanent location for the infrastructure. So the construction at the permanent location will not impact the use of the generators in the temporary location. So I checked this week to verify that we have the facilities still in place to be able to operate the Clearlake South while construction is occurring. And we believe that that's going to be okay to use. Now, I want to just make sure I emphasize that our data really changed a lot from 2019 to 2020. And you saw that much more in 2020. My apologies. Hold tight for just a minute. My daughter just came home. In 2020, we saw far less frequency in Lake County occur, and that's because of all the improvements we've made to our weather scoping and our systems, weather stations, our modeling, and all the work that we've done to the infrastructure in the area. So with that combined effort, when we move into 2021, we expect far fewer events in your area. And some of the data shows a very low likelihood of the Clearlake area being impacted. That doesn't remove you from the possibility. And so we're continuing with the microgrids as an insurance policy for your communities there, both the north and south microgrids. I hope that answered your question, and happy to take any more.
I'm a little troubled by your historical data. Depending upon that, you say we're in springtime conditions. We've had exceptionally high winds continuously, it seems like, for the last 2 or 3 months. More importantly, our fire personnel are telling us that our moisture levels today, a year ago, were at 120%. Our moisture levels today are at 70%. That tells me that our conditions are more like June or July already. Yet your grid is going to be in the middle of construction. It would seem to me when we may actually need it the most. That's a little troubling.
Yeah, I understand. And we are seeing similar trends with dry fuels. We have similar data, and we're in coordination and collaboration with that analysis. I do understand the concern, and we all have that same concern. We're looking at a drier season than we've seen historically. And I agree, I'm observing winds, but the winds are not reaching the thresholds. And there's a number of different factors that go into the triggering criteria for a PSPS event. And winds is one component, fuel moistures are another component, both dead fuels and live fuels. And then atmospheric moisture is another component. All of those have to add up to exceed criteria before we initiate a PSPS. We're all very concerned about it. We're all very concerned about the dry conditions, and we recognize that this could be a tough season. And I think we should all be prepared.
Yet Clearlake North is not going to be ready until fourth quarter.
Correct. It has a temporary arrangement. However, if we enter into construction, it's simply a land constraint. Where we use the generators for the temporary location is the same location that we're intending to develop the permanent location. And therefore, once it goes under construction, there just isn't land there to put the generators and the technical feasibility to connect it. So we do need to be prepared for that as a potential outage if there's an event that coincides with the construction period.
Okay, any more questions from council? If not, I have a couple of them, a couple of comments really. You would agree that hardening and would be the ultimate solution, and of those things, undergrounding would be the best option. How come you're only doing 1 mile in 2021 compared to how many miles of power lines you have here?
So thank you. That is an excellent question. Let me go ahead and I'll try to back it up to that slide where we talk about system hardening. So when we do discuss system hardening, that's not just undergrounding. That's also the hardening of the lines, covering the lines and sectionalizing and things like that. System hardening is not always necessarily undergrounding. So I know John can speak to this as well, but we are looking at how to, given the newest criteria, how we can best prioritize where we are doing system hardening across the service area. So we do have plans to complete the 24 line miles of system hardening in Lake County this year. We are working as quickly and as safely as we can to move forward on these projects. I'll also defer to John if he has anything else that he wants to say about this, but I just want to clarify that the hardening is not always the same as undergrounding. Undergrounding is one tool within.
I understand that. I mentioned that undergrounding is the ultimate hardening. But only 1 mile in 2021, really?
So there, as I mentioned earlier, given this new criteria, we had to basically reevaluate, given the direction from the CPUC and the court, where we could best prioritize the system hardening. So they are working to make sure that we are allocating those resources to those areas that we feel are at highest risk. So I am confident that the work will get done this year. We just have not yet fully engaged, given that they had to reassess kind of the highest priority for system hardening.
How many miles of overhead power lines do you have in the county?
Let me see if I've got that handy for you. Overhead power lines, hang on just 1 second. Let me see if I have that handy. I might have to phone a friend, but if I can't get it for you in this exact minute, I can definitely send it over to you within the next hour. Hang on a second. Let me see if I have it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of
right
me.
before this one. I think there's some information about it.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I did phone a friend. So yes, we have 1,172 overhead distribution lines, and then another 200 overhead transmission lines.
So only 0.1% are you planning to do in 2021?
So correct. We are planning on doing 24 miles.
I think your focus is in the wrong direction, but that's just my personal opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It is always useful. We have an additional comment or question
One
from
more.
Councilman Kramer.
One more thing, Melinda, this is Russ Kramer. Do you, I know your crews are coming around and trimming trees down down the power line right of ways in the residential areas of Clearlake and well, in other places too, I'm sure. Do you ever work with any of the other utility companies? Because there's always lines hanging below your power lines. And it would seem to me that if a tree falls against or across one of those lower lines, it could also take out your PG&E lines, your power lines as well. So is there any coordination or cooperation between utilities? It would seem to me it would make a lot of sense if you did those things together to really protect the lines. I've got a couple of examples right on the street that I live on where large limbs that are in danger of hitting and going across the lines underneath your lines could very well take down a pole.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Kramer, for asking that. So the crews are working on vegetation management. They're doing both routine and enhanced vegetation management in Lake County right now. I will follow up and ask what type of coordination we're doing with the telecom providers for those other utility lines that are farther down on the pole, and see if we're doing any kind of arrangements or agreements. I do not have access to the information about what regulatory requirements there are for vegetation management for the other utilities, but I can look into that and get back to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, David, Councilman Claffey has a question.
Sorry, just one question. Being a new member, so what's the timeline? Obviously, not having PSPSs in the future is the goal. When do you guys actually think your equipment will be able to support Clearlake without having shutoffs?
Not sure, John, if you would like to take that question about how long we anticipate. I know that for the next few years, we do anticipate having public safety power shutoff events as a tool. It's really a backstop to prevent ignitions, but I'll defer to John as well.
Yeah, there's very distinct challenges here, and we have long-term planning with a number of different measures. We have short and long-term planning to address PSPS and push it into the smallest box that we possibly can while keeping communities safe. The vast majority of those issues revolve around vegetation. And all of our efforts are focused on not only addressing the vegetation, but addressing the infrastructure. And I think I mentioned already that we use a certain set of data that uses weather criteria, all the historic recorded weather criteria. And we use that data and we run it through weather modeling and then infrastructure modeling tools. And what we find is that the city of Clearlake has been reduced down to a very, very minimal impact. And to my surprise, it's almost no impact. But we don't want to say no impact because we're headed into a pretty dry year, and we have some modifications to the data based off from the CPUC requirements to incorporate trees that are outside of our rights of way. So trees that we don't actually have any control to cut and manage, we're being required to assess. And so work is in progress to identify ways to work with constituents that have those trees And work is underway to incorporate what does it mean to have those trees that have the potential to impact our system. So as long as those trees are a risk and we have dry conditions that continue to get drier, there will be risk to the system, and we have to be prepared to have strategies to either mitigate against that or be prepared for each individual facility. That being said, we have long-term planning groups that are focused on eliminating impacts to certain communities that we can, and goals to reduce the PSPS impacts to the very smallest manageable footprint that we can. And you're starting to see the results of that work as the city of Clearlake, the predictive analysis shows that you're in a much lower likelihood than you were in previous years. And we expect that to continue to improve as we're able to invest in infrastructure and address the vegetation. I hope that's helpful. There's a tremendous effort to move in the direction of protecting the communities and improving the conditions and reliability.
No one has their hand raised in the Zoom room for any public comment on this item.
Thank you for your presentation. It's always useful to hear what you're doing, and hopefully the microgrids get online as quickly as possible. And thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you and good evening.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, it's time now for any member of the public to address the city council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exception, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought before under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns might be referred to staff or placed on the next available agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have anybody from the public?
Mr. Mayor, we do have a member of the public who wishes to speak on the Zoom room. I have not received any emailed public comment, but there is, like I said, someone on the Zoom room who wishes to speak. I believe it is Mr. Victorian.
All right, sir, it's your time.
Go ahead and.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, Kevin Victorian from CNA. How's everyone today? I hope you're fine.
We're doing fine, thank you.
Okay, I don't want to sound like I'm beating a broken drum again, but it is fire season. It is the beginning of fire season, and we are getting really scared over here with CNA. The homeless community here was back there last Tuesday with a torch welding something, and it's too dry for that. I actually called the police, and they came out there and told them to knock it off, and they did, and what have you. But it's getting very dangerous, and it's serious. And we're talking about lives and people's property and stuff. These individuals don't have any sense of fire danger, and as we just heard PG&E, that's what they're all concerned about, is about the danger of fire around here right now. I have been working with PG&E and the fire marshal, as well as the weed abatement young lady, Autumn, I can't recall her last name, but this is a serious issue, and we really want to try to get this on the agenda, because fire season is just beginning. But some people say, September is really when fire season starts. Fire season starts when it gets dry. Okay, and we've already had a fire already in Lower Lake, and we're terrified of having one up here. So we would like to try to get this on the agenda and discuss it further about what can we do to do some kind of fire prevention, something of that nature, stopping these individuals from being back there or finding somewhere for them to go or do something. It's really, really scary and stuff, you know, because we're all at threat here. And I just wanted to see if we could get this placed on the agenda and we could discuss it further and stuff. And
Very good.
on,
We appreciate your comment, sir, and I know it's an area of concern to the city too.
I know it is. Okay, and on another note, I look forward to seeing you all. I think all of you have gotten your invitation for June the 12th. And I look forward to seeing you all. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you very much. All right,
Okay.
now to the consent item. Is there any changes to the consent agenda?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to mention item number 8, you received information in hard copy. So this is related to Clearlake Waste Solutions annual rate adjustment. There's a small change. The original agenda packet was based on an anticipated per ton gate fee at the landfill. That number was finalized after we were sent this information, and the gate fee is slightly lower. It looks like, as an example, was set at $53.90 a ton. It was expected to be $54.40 per ton. So the rate adjustment is just slightly lower than what was originally anticipated. So I just wanted to point that out. If you have any additional questions about it, we would have to, call in Clearlake Waste Solutions and address it at a later time. But since the rate adjustment was minor and a decrease, it's probably not a big deal, but I just wanted to point it out to you.
Council, an issue with that? If not, can I have a motion to?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that we accept the consent agenda as amended by City Manager Flora with additional information on item number 8.
We have a motion by Councilman Kramer. We have a second by Councilman Claffey. All in favor? Aye. All right, go to new business, item number 9. Discussion regarding the sale of property located at 14795 Burns Valley Road to Danco Community for Development of Mixed Income Housing.
Yes, thank you,
Flora.
Mr. Mayor, and council members. So I'll give a little bit of brief background, and then Chris Dart, the president of Danco Communities, is on the line, and he's going to give a little bit of a presentation on their company. So as you know, in December, the city closed escrow on approximately 31 acres of property north of Safeway and south and west of Burns Valley Road, with the intent of creating a mixed-use development. Of course, we've been working on the Burns Valley Sports Complex and finalizing some designs related to that, and as well as the Public Works Yard, a new development there. But the northeastern corner of that property, near existing housing development and just catty-cornered from the senior community center, we had identified for some type of housing development. We processed this property along with others, as you know, declared this portion of the property surplus, and notice through HCD and whatnot. But Danco has expressed interest in doing a project there. And so we believe they're a well-qualified developer, and they are in the process of doing a design for the property, and then they intend to apply for disaster tax credit funding, which will be happening in July 1st. And so what we're asking the council tonight is to enter into an exclusive negotiating agreement with them tonight, and then also to authorize me to enter into disposition and development agreement for that project because that's a requirement of them getting their funding prior to July 1st. There's a lot of other kind of details that we're working on. They do have kind of a first blush of the site plan that I think they'll show you tonight, so you can just kind of get an idea. I mean, we just saw this the first time this afternoon, so we don't want to get down in the weeds too much on it, but at this point it looks like they will be able to develop 84 units of housing on that property. And so with that, I would turn it over to Mr. Dart.
Do you have any questions from staff from Mr. Flora? If not, go ahead. Ellen.
Okay, let me share my screen. Good evening. Let's see. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little quiet, Chris, but we can.
Okay. I'll get closer to the mic. And you can see the slideshow.
Yes, it is up now. Thank you.
All right, let me get to the beginning here. Good evening, members of City Council. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to introduce myself and our company and talk about this exciting new workforce housing project that we would like to propose to be developed. My name is Chris Dart. I'm the president of Danco Communities. Got 26 years experience in the construction industry and been developing housing, more in particular multifamily housing, for the last 18 years. Danco is a company. We're located up in Arcata, California, is where our home offices are, but we have projects all over the state. We have about 190 employees and 6 diverse companies, mostly all related to housing. We've got what we call Danco Communities is our development company. We have 2 construction companies. One we mostly do self-performing work out of, and that would be the concrete, earthwork, framing, roofing, painting, cabinets, pretty much everything. And then the other Northwest is our bonded construction company. And then we've got Danco Property Management, which is our property management company. We also have Western Living Concepts, which is an assisted living operator. We have assisted living facility, 2 up in Humboldt County and 1 in Sonoma County in Cloverdale. And then we have our what we call Danco Supportive Services, which is an offer we make to women that have drug and alcohol addiction and trauma, that we make actually out in Colorado. We have extensive experience in multifamily housing, and that's mostly what we focus on now. We've done commercial construction over the years, but we're mostly building multifamily housing all over the state. We've got projects in Humboldt County, Mendocino, Santa Rosa, Petaluma, East Bay, Sacramento, Truckee, Ventura, San Jose. So we're really working all over the state now. Let's see, we've brought about 800 affordable units to market. Skipped a slide here. We brought about 800 affordable housing units to market so far, and we have roughly about that many that we have in the works throughout the state of California. We are what we call vertically integrated. Sorry, I'm skipping around here. Let me go back. We call vertically integrated, which is basically a fancy way of saying we develop, we do construction, and then we hold and manage all of our properties. We don't build these projects and sell them or flip them. We build them, or we develop them, meaning that we get them financed and entitled. We build them and then we manage them for the long haul. We have on our development side, as I mentioned, we're primarily focused on multifamily. We're developing family housing projects, which is what we would propose on this site. which means basically a mix of 3 2s and 1 bedrooms, even a few 4s for the workforce. We also develop senior housing, not just assisted living, but also just senior 62 and older exclusive communities. And then we do also supportive housing. We've got several projects that we've done supportive housing. In fact, this one here in Eureka, where my arrow is pointing, is supportive housing projects for veterans up in Eureka, California. Let's see. I just wanted to, again, this is just an introduction to who we are and what we can do, and just to show you a few of our projects, to showcase a few. So this one here is called Churchill Townhomes, which is located in Fortuna, California. It's a 35 unit project for families that's located in, as I said, Fortuna. This project is about 6 years old, and it's got a mix of 1s, 2s, 3-bedroom apartments, large community space. We've got wraparound services here. We've got a after-school program that we offer. It's put on by a local community, and we offer exercise classes free of charge to the residents. This project here it's called Astor Place. This is a 40-unit townhome project in the city of Eureka, and similar to the one in Fortuna, Churchill Townhomes. But this project is one of our earlier projects that we've done. It's about 10 years old now, and we rent this to families. Recent project, Creamery Row, which is a smaller project in Arcata, California, also townhomes. So you can see that we've got high quality construction. This project has carports, and it's unique in that it's a very small project. It's only an 18-unit project, which is not typical. And then one project that we've just completed recently out in Samoa, on the Samoa Peninsula, which we're finishing it now, is an 80-unit project that has a mix of 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. And actually, we set aside 20 of the units that are for families that are experiencing homelessness in the Humboldt County area. They're able to live in this project. This project is pretty incredible. It's got a view of the Pacific Ocean on one side and a view of the Eureka City and the bay on the other side. And that's a rendering of it up here in the far, where my mouse is here. And then the project that we're proposing to work with you all on Burns Valley Road. As Alan mentioned, we just rolled out this site plan. We just at the very beginning phases of the project, but this project is how we've sketched it so far would be 84 units. There's a drainage way here that sort of separates the project in a small parking area. This is basically a no-build area. There's 84 units as they've laid it out. The architecture group, DG Architects, which was also the same architecture group that designed the Samoa project that I showed you. 24 1-bedrooms, 36 2-bedrooms, 18 3-bedrooms, and 6 4-bedrooms. It's got a large community room, about 3,000 square feet. We would have an exercise room, a lounge area, computer room, management offices, and a large community kitchen that would open up to an outdoor patio. Also got community garden, tot lot, basketball courts, and there will be barbecue pits and many more amenities offered here on site. The unique thing about this project is we can utilize the affordable housing and help the city cover some off-site improvements that are related to the adjacent park area, which I think will be a community benefit for the city of Clearlake, that this project can help leverage some of that work to get done. And that's basically it. It's just a short presentation. Again, I just really appreciate the opportunity to present tonight and to meet you all and have you hear a little bit about what we do and what we're up to. And hopefully we can continue this process and do a nice project for the community. Thank you. I'll stop sharing my screen now. If there's any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
There are no hands raised in the Zoom room.
Okay. Any more questions?
Well, I mean, I think we kind of gave you a good overview. I mean, Chris and his team, they've done this a lot of times, as you can tell. We think they have a great product. They're willing to move really fast, which is one of the reasons why I'm asking you to go ahead and give me the authority to enter into this agreement as well as the DDA, because July 1st is right around the corner. But the tax credits basically it comes up once a year, and so we don't want to miss out on that opportunity, and do anything we can to support them moving this project forward. And as Chris did mention, there is the opportunity. We're still working on some of the details, but we should be able to leverage some of the infrastructure development for the sports complex as part of this funding package. So that'll be great.
Right, Vice Mayor Purdock has a question.
No, I just want to thank you for your presentation. This is exciting. I think I like the site plan for the property, and it'd be a nice and welcomed addition to our city.
Councilman Kramer. Great. Any other? Councilman Claffey? Councilwoman Overton?
I actually have a question for our administrator here. On here, it says the city is expected to commit a portion of the 7.5 million from the CB. How much, when you say a portion, what does that, do you have an idea of what that's going to be?
We're expecting, so this is the CDBG 2018 CDBG disaster recovery funds for affordable housing that were allocated to the county. The county wasn't able to put together a project, and so they agreed to relinquish those funds to Lakeport and to Clearlake. So we're going to be going through a sort of solicitation process with the city of Lakeport as well. But because of the timing, we've worked with HCD and figured out a way to get Chris what he needs for their application. Okay. But so we don't know that number exactly, but we're expecting it probably to be in the $3 to $4 million range of the $7.5 million is what we would like to allocate to this project.
And just so I'm clear, what does that money, is that going into the project itself, the building of it and everything?
Yes.
Okay. And okay, so this is, and this project's going to be what do we anticipate the project to be?
Well, their estimates, I don't know if he has any updated numbers, but the initial estimate was probably a $50 million project.
I just had that question. I just wanted to make sure that we was clear. Okay, thank you. Thank you
Great.
for your
Any more?
presentation.
One more? No? Chris, I don't know if you know, but the whole city is an opportunity zone, so you might have some extra benefits for that.
Yeah, I did notice that. That could actually help us with some of the investor interest, as well as maybe higher pricing on our equity. Thank you.
Right. Any more comments?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chris.
Have a good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead, Councilman.
Councilmember Kramer, is your microphone on?
Turn it off. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have like to make a motion to authorize the city manager to execute the exclusive negotiation agreement with Danco Communities and to further enter into a disposition and development agreement on other agreements as necessary for sale of property at 14795 Burns Valley Road.
We have a motion by Councilman Kramer.
Second.
We have a second by Vice Mayor Purdock. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Okay, go to the last item on the agenda. That is discussion and declaration of successor agency property located at 2890 Old Highway 53 as surplus land. Council Manager Flora.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So one of the properties that is owned by the former redevelopment agency is a approximately 29-acre property off of Old Highway 53. I know the council members are all familiar with this property. In December, we entered into an agreement with, well, we had 2 interested developers. The council selected one to enter an agreement with. Recently, they let us know that they had no interest in moving forward with the project. And so there's a number of steps that are involved, as you know, with the Surplus Land Act and more recently AB 1486. And so we kind of have to start the timeline over again on all these steps. This is the first step, is the council declaring this property to be surplus, and we'll have to notice it through the state and so forth. So happy to address any questions you have, but this action is just to declare that property to be surplus so we can move forward. I guess one final thing I would point out is even though there's a lot of hoops to jump through, we have already started initiating discussions with potentially interested developers, and in fact have a meeting with someone next week about this property. So we still see a lot of interest out there, and we're optimistic that we'll be able to land someone that can actually get this project done.
All right, do we have any questions for staff? If not, I'll open it up to the public. Do we have any public comment on this?
Honorable Chair, I have not received any emailed comments, and there are no hands raised in the Zoom.
All right, we'll bring it back to the council. Any additional questions? If not, I entertain a motion. Go ahead, Councilman Kramer.
Go ahead, Chris. We might as well take it to the end.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number SA 2021-03, declaring agency-owned property at 2890 Old Highway 53 as surplus land.
We have a motion by Councilman Kramer. Second. We have a second by Vice Mayor Purdock. Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, go to city manager and council member reports.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just have a few items wanted to give some updates on. So our new office assistant is expected to start next week. We did a final interview with associate planner candidate today, and we expect to be making an offer on that in the next day or so, that position. And we have a final interview with the finance director candidate next week as well. So things looking pretty good on that front so far. A few project updates. You're aware that the Sulphur Fire rehab project request for bids was sent out earlier this week. Based on the timing for that, the bids are expected to come in, or the bid opening is July 15th. Based on the timing and the need to keep that project moving forward, we're tentatively planning on having a special meeting on Monday, July 19th, to award bids on that project, assuming everything goes according to plan. So just wanted to give you a little advance notice on that. Our Measure V projects for the year are expected to go out to bid probably on Monday or early next week. And then the chip seal project is expected to start on June 1st. So our city crews are finishing up the work necessary, hopefully this week on that. They'll do a construction visit and then they'll get going. So those are my updates.
Right, Councilman Kramer, you have anything exciting that you were part of this week? No, I'm working my way this week.
Yes, actually I do. Monday, I attended via Zoom, Risk Reduction Authority meeting. And immediately on Tuesday, I also attended a 4-hour session put on by the CMAT, which is Community Mitigation Assistance Team. It's a part of the U.S. Forest Service. And they had what's called a SWOT exercise in which we discussed the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of our fire mitigation and plans for Lake County. It was actually a pretty interesting session. It was so good that it's my understanding that we're going to do it again this coming Monday with CMAT. It's an additional 4 hours. So I will be reporting on that, I guess, next meeting. And also, something that I've been updating you on weekly is the vegetation removal project east of the city, beginning off of Davis Road and running south a mile, 1.3 miles. It's going to be the removal of vegetation down a dozer line that's going to make it 400 feet wide. That project started today. So I'm real happy to it's been a long haul and it's finally got started. So that's something I think it's gonna protect the city on the east side to a great extent. No, and then last but certainly not least, Lower Lake Community Action Group is annual Lower Lake Days Parade and Street Fair will be happening May 30th. That's a Sunday afternoon from 11 to 3 p.m. So expect to see everybody there. That's all I have.
Over.
I attended the stormwater meeting along with Kramer, and thank you, David, for removing yourself from that meeting and Adeline and them. So it was decided to go on. We have some state pesticides that we have to monitor. We're going to add those into our monitoring system that we do already. But the state's basically asking us to start working on an actual plan and put in process. So we've asked for, the board asked for some, to get some, a company has offered, they want to start doing it, the companies haven't done these before. So we may get a chance to get it done at a lesser price, where means the city's price would be less. We all put in money for this. And then also to get a quote on an idea of what it would actually cost to have an employee. We no longer have an employee. When this first started, when this back years ago, when I first got on the council, this started up, we actually had an employee that oversaw this. It's getting kind of rough for our staff that's working at the county and the Lakeport and stuff to handle all their regular jobs plus this here. So we've asked for them to kind of give us an idea what it would cost us to see, and maybe coming back to the cities and the county to see if we want to figure out a way to fund that position. Everybody can only do so much, and when we're really not paying them more to do these jobs, they're trying to do their regular job plus this. So and this is a lot. Like I said, we had a full-time position before on it. Now they have nothing. So hopefully we can do that. So some of that stuff will probably be coming back to the city in the future on what the cost would be, and if we want to join in to see if we want to fund that. I just thought I'd let you have a little heads up while you're looking at the things. And then I'll be attending the Redwood Empire Division meeting via Zoom tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So that's it.
Councilman Claffey.
Thank you. So last 2 weeks, I attended the PEG board meeting. I want to let folks know that the PEG station here has some really wonderful equipment. And one of the things that we talked about was their great audio system and how we're going to use that to support 4th of July and other events in the future, building a system or a program around that so that we can get that more out in the community. But, you know, if you're interested in filmmaking or just shooting some footage, we're hoping to set up a really streamlined rental program so that anyone can get access. Our marketing committee met this week, and the great news is that events are starting to come back safely, of course, but we talked about the 4th of July and ways we can help support that, along with the Lions and the work that the city is doing to really make that a really great kickoff event for our city. Another event that the city staff is working on, of course, is the Soapbox Derby. We had our first planning meeting for that. Still working out some of the, there's competition coming this year. There's going to be some minor rule changes, mostly around some of the logistics on getting the cars out of the starting block, but every rule that would benefit Alan has been stripped from the rule book. But a lot of enthusiasm around this event, and I think we're gonna really, the first year we did it, I don't think enough people knew about it right away, and now I think it's got a bit of a buzz, and folks are excited. As part of that, what we really are hoping to do is do a workshop about a month ahead of time, so we can get some really simple kits together, so that we can provide access to folks who may not have all the power tools and may not be able to buy $300 wheels, but they still want to participate and roll down the hill and have some fun. And that's it. I just think there's a lot of stuff in motion, a lot that the city's leading. So some of our consultants are leading, and just all the great organizations here in town. I think this is going to be a great summer and even better fall. And I'm just happy that everyone is coming out and really supporting. So thank you.
Question. Did I see a small pad, concrete pad being built in Austin Park?
Yes. Yeah.
And that is for one of the fish, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the city crews put that one in. And then we added it to the promenade project. There'll be another one over across the street. So that was just, we did a change order as part of that project, and they'll be installing it probably next week or something.
Awesome.
Not the sculpture, but the concrete, and then but this one should be ready for installation relatively soon. Yeah, and it's great looking, so it'll be super exciting. Oh, they're all bass. Yeah.
No hitch? No hitch? No hitch?
No, all bass. Sorry.
If you guys haven't seen the photos yet of some of the work the artists have done, they're really impressive. They're just incredible. So yeah, they're bass, but they're beautiful bass.
All right, Vice Mayor Purdock.
Not much to report on, Mr. Mayor. Been monitoring the work that's been going on by CDF behind Tractor Supply, along with Councilmember Kramer's comments. It's really good to see that brush being removed. That's always been kind of a danger zone, and we've had so many fires in that area. It's really good to see that break in the brush. And also it's good to see the clearing of the soon-to-be sports complex. I'd like to commend and thank Mr. Flora and his staff for the flag raising event that took place yesterday. I apologize I couldn't sit in on the LAFCO meeting, but I was glad you were there so I could be at the flag raising event.
I figured we kind of.
And that went, I think, very well. Winds were a little blustery, but the Public Works crew got the flag up and it looks great.
Nobody flew away. Huh?
I was worried about some of the kids hanging onto the flag and one senior council member, but we were able to get it up without any injuries.
Awesome. All right. My report is I attended the LAFCO meeting yesterday, and the MSR for the water districts within the city is gearing up. They're also working on MSRs for the cemetery districts. A lot of the cemetery districts have antiquated reporting system and auditing is an issue. So it's moving forward. The last part of the South Lakeport annexation is starting to heat up. So that will be presented probably in not next meeting, but the week after that. And that will be done then in Lakeport. We did mention it to the LAFCO, John Benoit, who runs LAFCO, that we wanted to start looking at some annexations to the city on the north side. Mr. Purdock, you have a do-over?
No, not a do-over. A question for the city manager.
Okay.
Were you able to attend the Lake County Chamber meeting and presentation by the general manager of Knoxville Brand?
No, it was not. Yeah, sorry. I'll try to get an update for, yeah.
Okay, do we have any future agenda items? Anybody has any thoughts that they want to see next time around? If not, meeting is adjourned to closed session. 5-minute break.
5-minute break, yeah.
Huh? Yeah. All right.
Hey, Bill.
Good. Maybe you're